Hey everyone, today I'm going to review an Onikiri katana. Before we get into that, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Thank you. Now, onto the sword. This sword was sent to me to customize by Daniel Lopez, the Blind Samurai, and he asked me to review it, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. The blade length on this sword is 28 1/4 inches. The handle length is 11 1/4 inch. The point of balance on this sword is 4 1/4 inches, and the weight is 2 pounds, 4.6 ounces. So it's pretty well balanced, and it's pretty light too. Because of the weight and point of balance on this sword, it actually handles very well. It's very fast, not tiring to use, and overall just handles very nicely. The blade is made of 1045 carbon steel, and while this sword did come sharp, the edge did need some touching up. The saya lines up with the fuchi fairly well. The saya fit is actually pretty good. There's very little, if any, movement in the edge to spine direction. Very little, if any, in the twisting direction. But there is some in the side to side direction if you listen. However, that's really not that bad. I've seen swords much more expensive than this one that were far worse. The koiguchi, which is the opening to the saya, is not made of horn. Neither is the korigata, but the korigata is a large wooden korigata. I much prefer these over the thin wooden korigata because these tend to be stronger. And the sword did not come with a horn kojiri, so I added one. The space between the korigata and the koiguchi is a bit excessive. As you can see, you really don't want this much space. For comparison, here's my Kas Hanwei Shobuzukuri Raptor. As you can see, much less space, which is important if you actually study Japanese swordsmanship, because depending on the style, some styles do have techniques where you grab and just squeeze like this and the sword is open. So that is definitely one thing I would like to see Onikiri change, is reducing the amount of space between the koiguchi and korigata. The sword doesn't want to just fall out of the saya, which is the scabbard, so that's definitely good. I actually had to file that to loosen it up a little bit. The fit of the tsuba, which is the guard, is pretty good. There's a tiny little bit of wobble, but not a big deal. The fuchi, which is the handle collar, and the kashira, which is the end cap, are pretty basic, but they work. The manuki, which are the ornaments, are dragons. The sword did not come with this handle wrap. It came with some black ito that was a synthetic, and it was very loose, so I rewrapped it. The race skin on this sword is artificial. The habaki, which is the blade collar, has a really good fit. The seppa, which are these little spacers, are a little bit loose, so the next size up on these would be good. And also having the opening closed up a little bit. And the seppa shape-wise are the budget range seppa, which are perfectly functional. The sword came with a wire brush hamon, which I removed, and I gave the sword a nicer polish. This is a mirror polish. The polish that this sword came with was a pretty basic polish. The bohi, which is this fuller in the blade, was ground a little bit off center on one side. I fixed that with some sandpaper. It wasn't too far off, just a little bit off. So overall, what do I think of this sword? For the money, I think it's an excellent buy. Daniel only paid $75 for this sword. This is a lot of sword for $75. I've seen swords that cost 3 or 4 times that amount that are not as nice as this sword in terms of fit and finish. I would like to see Onikiri change the position of the korigata. That would cost them nothing to do and would make for a nicer sword for martial arts practice. I'd also like to see them get rid of the wire brush hamon, because personally I do not like the look of a wire brush hamon, and I've found that quite often on the spot that a wire brush hamon is usually where the blade will like to rust even more than the rest of the blade. So personally, I'd like to see them just get rid of that entirely. Same goes with all manufacturers in that regard. But for $75, this is really an awesome sword. So thank you, Daniel, for allowing me to review this sword. This is awesome. Everyone check out Daniel's channel. Link will be in the description. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next video.